But today, of course, is the feast of St. Marianne Cope, who is one of the two saints that are honored on Molokai, on Kalapapa in the colony, where they took care of the lepers. And I just was there on pilgrimage, and I'm like, oh, glad I didn't miss it, because I would have felt really terrible if I was just there and not celebrate her feast day. She's so new in the calendar, she hasn't been in the books, and so that's why I almost missed it. But she's a tremendous saint, St. Marianne Cope. She died in 1918, and she spent 35 years on the leper colony on the island of Molokai, known as Kalapapa. And what was really beautiful about her life, she of course was a German immigrant. Her family, they moved in when she was about 9 years old. They came to America, and there was no stranger to suffering. It was a very difficult time when they immigrated. And she was, I think her father, I believe they had 9 children by his first wife, but 7 of those children died in childbirth. And she was the child of the second marriage. They had 5 more children. So again, times were very hard back then. Infant mortality was very high. And so she was no stranger to death and illness. And when she came to the United States, her own father then died when she became a young adult woman. She was 24, and she entered the Franciscan order. And then she quickly rose the ranks. She had great leadership capacity. She was a very astute young lady. She was also very, shall we say, not strict, but she was very orderly. That good German sensitivity. I love that girl, right? So she, I got German roots myself. But she quickly became a Mother Superior and was sent all over. She went to their various houses in Syracuse and around New York and elsewhere, and was managing hospitals, the schools that they ran. And then came the fateful day when she got a letter in the mail from the bishop in Honolulu that was begging for sisters to come to help the lepers on Molokai. And he sent this letter out to 47 different religious communities of sisters, and she was the only one who replied positively. Everyone else shut the door. So we see very clearly that she then heard the call of the Lord, and she and several sisters came then to Hawaii, and they began serving the lepers both on Maui and on Molokai. And eventually she came to Kalapapa and stayed there. Damien, of course, they overlapped. This was, of course, Damien's request. He wanted sisters to be there, and he, of course, at that time had been contracting leprosy, and he offered his life there for the lepers by dying. And Marianne Cope famously, she was, of course, involved in healthcare, so she came to revise the healthcare standards there, and she actually increased the standard of care for all the Franciscan hospitals throughout the world, and in fact had some revolutionary ideas at the time that were kind of more modern medical treatments. And so we're very indebted to her, and even in the healthcare world, for some of the innovations she was involved in because of the university studies in New York. But she famously, some of her sisters were afraid of leprosy, and one of the sisters came to her and was afraid, and she says, "Do not worry, none of our sisters will contract leprosy." And indeed, none of them ever did. So it's one of the miracles, indeed, of just a prophetic understanding that they had a different mission, a different calling, but then they founded, of course, homes for the girls on the island, because when you're sent there to die, which indeed was the case, they just piled all the lepers on the island and just let them have it. It became a lawless place before Damien arrived. So indeed, morality was quite questionable. Indeed, the children who were there were the ones who suffered the most. And so Damien and Sister Marianne Cope, they were very keen on having houses for the girls and for the boys to care for those who were orphaned, essentially, by their families. So indeed, a tremendous lady. Everyone on the island loves her. Everyone in the islands love her tremendously and remember her with great fondness. And they were very upset when they removed her body from Molokai, and because of the canonization. I was actually at her canonization in Rome in 2012, and I'd forgotten about that because it was Kateri Tekakwitha's canonization mass. They were canonized together, so all the focus on Kateri, but of course the Hawaiian contingent was there in force. They dug up her body and brought her to Syracuse. They were very upset by that, but she had osteoporosis, so a lot of her bones had kind of disintegrated into the ground. So they said, well, actually most of her is probably still there in the grave, and so they all grabbed the dirt and yay! So very, very excited that she's still actually there on the island where she wanted to be. And of course, she never wanted to leave Molokai, and so they brought her body to Syracuse, New York, which was not her desire, but then the mother house closed in Syracuse a few years later, so then they moved her back to Honolulu where she is currently, so she kind of got her wish to never leave the islands. So she's there to this day. So a tremendous lady, woman of faith, and a great Franciscan who just lived that obedience and poverty and just openness to the Lord and to care for those who are the least among us. So we ask for her prayers today that we would be able to do that ourselves. St. Marianne Cope, pray for us.